It's February 26th at Castle Door Studios in Orlando. This is the Orange Lando Show. I'm Stuart Spears, and today I'm sitting down with John Blanche. You've been associated with the Bee Gees, Hotel California as something to do with audio engineering, I believe. And was it a Grammy you were awarded with the Bee Gees?
We received a Grammy for Hotel California, and we also received one for Saturday Night Fever.
Saturday Night Fever.
Yes.
Got you.
And assorted other little things, and it was just, I was part of that engineering team.
Mm-hmm.
And like the Eagles thing was, at the time, I was chief mastering engineer. My main job was taking audio and putting it on vinyl. And a lot of engineers that were mixing would love to have access to the mastering engineer because they could mix a song and say, here, go put that on vinyl. And we'd stick it on vinyl and see if they were in the ballpark or see if it was doable that way. Because vinyl had physical limitations. There was physics involved. There were certain things you couldn't put on vinyl.
Oh, okay. So were you recording a tape first?
So I was...
Or how would it...
Like they would be mixing. They would, especially when they were mixing, engineers would always try and get access or befriend the mastering engineer.
Yeah.
So, hey, I finished this song. Put it on a disc. We want to hear what it sounds like.
Right.
And then they would know because
gotcha.
there were certain low frequency limitations on vinyl. Vinyl is, again, it's physics oriented. There are just things you can't do with vinyl that you can do on other medias.
Mm-hmm.
So they always liked keeping us around.
So you were the chief master engineer at Criteria Hit Factory.
At Criteria. Now, Hit Factory didn't own it then yet.
Oh, okay.
When I came into Criteria, originally I was at University of Miami studying music and in the studio music and jazz department. And I was doing a lot of recording for them, and they always liked the idea of being able to put somebody at Criteria. So, and Mac Emmerman who was owned Criteria and started Criteria, loved the whole big band thing. He loved our University of Miami concert jazz band and would always invite them to come and play. So the dean at the School of Music thought, hey, let's see if we can get an intern in there. So they got me in as an intern at Criteria, and I literally interned there for about a year.
So you were still in school?
I was still in school, and honestly...
At Miami,
and slowly getting away from school. I mean,
Gotcha.
I ultimately dropped out of school.
Well, because, I mean, you were already... in the industry you were trying to get into anyways.
I was already at the top of the industry. And I remember I went back to the university one day, and the dean caught me, and I was just checking some friends, and he dragged me to his office, and they literally built me a degree that day. Because before I was in music...
Like an honorary degree kind of?
No, before I was in music, I did 3 years of architecture.
Oh.
Because I was originally an architecture major.
Okay.
And then I changed over to music. Because
Yeah.
I wanted to get more into the audio. Well, I actually said it was a fairly common change, believe it or not. Yeah. A lot of architects went into music.
Really?
And
like architect, like designing?
Designing.
Okay,
And so I went into music department and was there for a couple years, long enough to have graduated. By the time I kind of got away from the school, I had well over 250 credits between the architecture and the music that I did. So the dean kind of built me a degree.
Gotcha.
So I had more than enough credits, so I graduated that day. And
That's awesome.
But yeah, so they placed me at Miami, and at Criteria. And it's hard getting
What was going on when you first...
the
first few months you were there, like what was...
they were finishing the Eric Clapton record.
Okay.
Which one was it? The 461 Ocean Boulevard.
461 Ocean Boulevard. And this is when Eric Clapton, was he already... he had already had like successful albums at the time?
He had done Blind Faith. He had been through all of that. Now it was
he was known. Eric Clapton was like a household name, and
yes,
he was. So that must have been exciting.
That was fun, but I was still just kind of hanging out and watching it go by. And they were finishing the Bee Gees album that had Jive Talking on it.
Oh no!
It was their first disco record.
Okay.
Their introduction to disco.
So, and obviously they did really well.
They did real well, and I was there just as an assistant, just cleaning up stuff and setting up things and getting coffee and doing things like that. Sure. And the owner was a very nice guy, and he would come tell me how wonderful job I was doing, but you really don't need to come back because we're not going to hire you.
Oh, okay.
You're an intern.
Right,
you
you're
know,
here. This is
bye-bye.
Bye. Yeah.
So a gentleman named Alex Sadkin was running the mastering department at that time. And Alex was starting to venture away from mastering. Mastering engineers, it's a great place to start.
Okay.
Because you hear finished product. You hear how things are
okay.
supposed to sound, and you kind of give them a little help so it works better on a record. But you hear stuff finished.
But as opposed to actually tracking and
As opposed to tracking everything.
Okay.
And most of the good mastering engineers, Tommy Dowd was this way, Carl Richardson was this way, Alex Sadkin was this way, as they venture away from mastering and start doing more engineering.
got you.
Because they've already got a concept in their brains of what
the end
good
goal
things
is.
sound like.
Yeah.
So I kind of befriended Alex, and we also had a client there called Southeastern Records, and all of Southeastern Records was Spanish. And not that Alex didn't want to do the Spanish music, but he was now starting to do more things for, he did, Eagles' Greatest Hits, and starting to
right.
do better stuff.
It's like the real popular
Real
stuff.
pop
That's
stuff.
working. It's like
right.
proven.
And
right.
he, not that the Southeastern music was beneath him or anything. He was running out of time to do it. So I said, hey,
right.
teach me how to do that. And I'll do your Spanish records. I didn't speak Spanish or anything, but again, it was a foot in the door.
Right.
So he taught me how to do mastering to some degree.
When you were still an intern.
When I was still an intern.
And you knew, like, if I didn't have a reason to be here after the internship was up, like, you weren't going to be here.
I'm not going to be here.
So you found a good...
And I could hang out. I was never
opportunity.
chased away. I could hang out as long as I wanted.
Okay.
I was there for about a year.
Cool.
And then, so he taught me how to do Spanish records. And I started doing all the Spanish records. And the woman that was the studio manager at the time, Edie Murphy, started paying me. And then one day, Mac, the owner, invited me up to his office and said, "Oh, I hear you work for me now."
The guy that told you that you weren't going to be here after the internship.
Yeah. So, and he gave me my key and gave me my security
Very
code.
cool.
And that was my start at Criteria.
Okay, yeah.
And I stayed in mastering. And again, you always get involved in other things too. So I learned more about engineering. I did a initial album for the Dixie Dregs.
The Dixie
Dregs, which was Steve
don't know
Morris.
them.
That was a very, very hip rock
Okay.
band, instrumental rock band that was actually a class at the University of Miami.
Okay. And we just for a reminder, what year
Okay,
was
this-
your what year was this? Like
this was-
early 70s or
This
early
was
80s?
like 72.
72.
72, 73 is when I finally, when I
Okay.
went into Criteria.
Yeah.
And so I started doing more and more stuff, still through the University of Miami. Not that I was a student there anymore, but they had just finished building a big studio.
So you were working there?
And so I was helping them get it
You're
going.
helping getting the studio at Miami.
Making it work. So,
you just graduated on like kind of like your own terms or like your
Yeah.
special terms. Went to Criteria for a year.
For about a year.
And then they hired you over
And
at
then
Miami.
they hired
too,
me, and
because
then-
they have a big program there
they
now.
have a real big program now.
Right. It's a like hotspot for people that
Right.
want to
Yeah.
become
When I
engineers.
went there and started the music program in 70, I was only there 70, 71, 72. They were just trying to figure it out.
Okay.
And they had a little studio as part of the jazz department. And I talked Ted Krager, who was the assistant dean of the School of Music. I'll run that for you.
Yeah.
And I knew nothing. So
How old were you? Early
was-
20s?
yeah, I was like 20,
Yeah.
right around 20, 21.
You're a super humble guy for somebody who's worked with, like, I have a list here. Eric Clapton, you said, Allman Brothers.
Yeah.
Grease. You have an Oscar for Grease.
We have
the original soundtrack.
We did the title song.
The title song.
Grease is the word. The one that Barry wrote it. It's done basically by the Bee Gees.
Okay.
And then we had Frankie Valli from the Four Seasons came and sang it.
Wow, that's
So yeah, we worked on that, and I think it got nominated for like best song.
But
in a
it doesn't
movie.
seem like you were like in the time, like you don't like the way you're talking doesn't seem like you were trying to like let's go for this Oscar.
Oh God, no.
You were in the right place.
Yeah, right
time,
place at the right time,
and things were happening.
And Barry was incredibly. He just wrote tons and tons and tons of music.
Yeah.
He could write a hook real easily, and that we just and I worked on several albums with him. I worked on both of his Andy's records, and then I worked. I worked a little bit on one of the Eagles on the Hotel California, and that was mixing
The album?
The album,
Yeah.
and that was after it had been recorded, and they were mixing it. And again, I was chief mastering engineer at the time.
Okay.
And Bill Simzik, who was the producer of the record, said, "Geez, it would be nice if you were my assistant engineer during this." And so I got to be there during all of that and learn his little tricks and everything.
When he was mixing.
When he was mixing.
Cool.
So that was a lot of fun.
There must have been, at times like that, you must have been like, whoa, like, I'm fucking lucky.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I'm sitting in this room right now. Like,
there was a lot of that thought. I was, oh, wow.
Like, how did this happen almost? Like, I mean, obviously you worked.
And the studio was so busy with such popular artists. I mean,
like they were booked.
Yeah, it was booked,
constantly.
and I did a bunch of stuff with Crosby, Stills, and Nash. Stephen kind of lived there, Stephen Stills. And again, anything that Bill Simzik was doing, which would have been...
So he was like the main producer, right?
He was the main producer. That was Pandora Productions, and they did the Eagles.
Yep.
And they did, any of Joe Walsh's stuff also.
Okay.
And Joe Ferguson.
Wow.
Jay Ferguson.
Jay Ferguson. And Miami, I mean, you hear a lot about like some, Los Angeles, New York, Nashville. Miami is
Miami
has quite a big history.
Tommy Dowd.
Who's Tommy Dowd?
Tommy Dowd was basically one of the founders of Atlantic Records.
Oh.
So, and Tommy was in New York with Jerry Wexler and Arif Mardin and Ahmet Ertegun. That was Atlantic Records.
Yeah.
And Tommy liked Florida, and he liked Mac at Criteria. So Criteria became basically Atlantic South.
Okay.
And all these Atlantic acts would come to Miami to work with Tommy.
Okay.
And I was very lucky to work with Tommy for
so
several years.
So he attracted a lot of the talent?
A lot of
the artists?
I mean, Tommy literally did 12 gold albums a year. Damn, you're right. Platinum, he did all the Aretha Franklin stuff. He did all the Ray Charles stuff. He did, the list went on and on. Lynyrd Skynyrd, Eric, tons and tons of people.
Oh, yeah. So Miami kind of came up after these other studios were already established in other cities.
I want to say Criteria started. I mean, it really came to its own in the 70s. I mean, in the 70s, Criteria was the super studio.
When did the Hit Factory
Hit Factory
happen?
took over in, I want to say 93, 94.
Okay, so it still had quite a bit of time.
Yeah, and it Hit Factory whole thing has kind of been unique. But yeah, I mean, Hit Factory's a great company.
Yeah.
And I think Trevor's still running the place.
Is there a big difference between the way it operates since?
That's family.
Yeah.
We were real family oriented. I mean, it was a family, the Criteria family. And I mean, now it's just a big time service studio.
Service, yeah.
Yeah.
So that must have, I mean, you guys like pretty much like lived and worked together then. You spent a lot of time.
We all right there.
So people would just, you're saying something earlier about like fans or groupies and stuff. You guys would come in for like tracking sessions and stuff like that?
Yeah, that was Andy. Happened? Andy needed some type of external affirmation that he was doing good. And he was popular at the time.
Andy
Gibb.
Okay, and so he liked having an audience.
And we would set up a little audience right in the front there for him, and have to be quiet, and can't fall over anything. But and that motivated him. But we would do all of Andy's vocals for a whole album in like a week. He would crank them out.
He was just good.
Yeah,
he just had them.
Yeah, he was, and his career was interesting. He was awful young to handle that much fame, which was probably his ultimate sad ending.
Oh yeah, how was?
I think he OD'd or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he died very, very, very young.
Very young.
Yeah.
Yeah,
before any of the brothers. I mean, before Maurice or Robin.
It's a story you hear too often.
Yeah, I mean, he was just.
Was that like rampant,
famous.
like in that scene? Like a lot of people.
There were some peculiar people. I mean, some people handle it better than other people. I mean, like Lynyrd Skynyrd band, you have no idea that they had fame.
Because they were just super easy.
They were just a bunch of guys and nice ladies and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, really easy to get along with. Actually, the Bee Gees were more. Barry was real down to earth, real easy to get along with, very approachable.
Yeah. Wow. So when did things start? When did it become like? What was kind of like your big break? Like more in terms of like you said you got the job. after the first year. But were there like a few, like once you got like a couple credits under your belt or something like that, did you get more work?
When you start getting your name on albums, then all of a sudden it dawns on you. Yeah. When you get to join NARAS. NARAS, National Association of Recorded Arts and Sciences. Back then, to join NARAS and like vote on Grammys, you had to have your name on 2 albums. Now you have to have $300 or something like that. I think now you can purchase a membership.
Gotcha.
Where back then you had to be, legitimate. You had to have your name on something.
You're official.
Yeah. So once you get into NARAS,
and then it was just off to the races, and next thing you know, you're sitting in rooms with, all these people.
Yeah, there's just and every things would be, you'd get called in and you'd end up in a session with like Joe Cocker or something. just
Yeah, it's funny because obviously I'm from a different generation than you, but I know a lot of these, especially Joe Cocker, like my parents.
Oh yeah. Your parents would love my stories.
Exactly. Yeah, like they're gonna. My mom's gonna be like, "Who did you meet? How did you? Blah, blah, blah." And well, eventually you started your own studio, though, right?
Yeah.
In Orlando?
In Orlando, yes. I have had.
So you had a successful career down there.
Had a successful career down there. Then I changed my lifestyle and made some personal decisions. Tried some being a dad and stuff like that, and really kind of got away from this industry.
Oh.
I mean, I still kind of did it in a way, but I got into a lot of spoken word recording, and smaller projects.
Gotcha.
And then I made some other changes in my personal life and went back in the studio business. So I built one studio, but both of them have been in Longwood. One was just a much smaller studio just to see what business was out there. And I did a bunch of Disney stuff and things like that. So I got an idea of what the business was in this town.
Okay. So Disney they used to do a lot more, didn't they?
They used to.
TV shows and stuff too?
They did, especially when they were trying to compete a little more heavily with Universal at some
But they did it in Orlando. Do they do that anymore?
Disney's an interesting animal.
Okay, yeah.
And I love Disney. They're great people. Majority of, I believe, is done in Los Angeles now. Disney did a lot of stuff. They did things with me. I also, before I built my own studio, I went to work with Glenn Gettings over at Stark Lake.
Stark Lake's a production?
Stark Lake, I think it still existed. And Stark Lake had a big contract with Disney.
Okay.
They did a lot of Disney stuff. And Stark Lake liked Disney. Stark Lake was in Winter Garden.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, which
Orlando.
isn't too far from Disney, but it's far enough away that if a session gets started, it can't be interrupted. Disney had their own studio. They had a Neve sitting in the underground for years. All the tunnels that go under the Magic Kingdom.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's the studio there.
Oh.
Finally referred to as Studio D.
What? Under Magic Kingdom?
Yeah, underneath
there's a recording
the castle.
studio. Holy shit. That is so cool.
Now,
it's like some superhero kind of
I
thing.
don't know if it ever really got used. They had an old Neve. It sat out in the hallway. It may have finally got commissioned. I don't know. And it may never have ever gotten commissioned because of the fact that it's too in-house. It's going to be interrupted by so many other things because Disney's a busy place.
Right.
So they liked the idea of having a studio they could use that was
off-property.
That was off-property and like 40 minutes away. Well, that's really kind of too far to have to go away to interrupt anybody.
Right. So you kind of, you're just far enough away to be out of the eyesight.
It's local.
Yeah.
That you can still use all the musicians that you want to use that you know about. But and then I did a thing for them. I redid all the music in the Tower of Terror for them once.
Oh, yeah.
And
so you're doing
and this was at my studio.
This is the Ride Tower Terror or the Ride. The Ride. Yeah.
I redid the ballroom sequence.
Okay.
And brought in a kind of a swing band that could do that kind of thing, that 40s thing. And but we cut all the tracks, and then they put pilot vocals on at my studio, and then shipped it to L.A., where they put the real vocals on in another studio, and then it went someplace else to get mixed.
Wow, yeah, traveled.
And then everything's net 90, so.
Net 90?
Means you get paid after 90 days.
Oh, net 90, gotcha.
Net 90,
yeah.
Disney's net 90.
So you waited.
You wait, and you get paid.
You get paid.
And you always get paid. I mean, it's just net 90.
Wow, 90 days is a lot.
90 days can be a lot.
yeah, absolutely. Holy crap. One thing I want to know is, like, what do you just have, like, I think people would just be interested to know because you've met so many icons and you've been around that kind of that space. What's like a story that you'll never forget, or one that meeting somebody, or just it could be outrageous, it could be kind. Like what is it? What's something that sticks out?
Jeez. I'm trying to think of not being negative.
Yeah, you don't have, not to like talk badly about anybody, but
No, I mean, Barry was always such a great guy to work with.
Barry
Gibb.
Barry Gibb.
Just because he was open to any suggestion. You could say, hey, he'd hum a little bar for you, and what does that make you think of? And you'd tell him what kind of song or style of music.
Yeah.
And he'd go look that up and studied it for a while and come back and say, hey, I think, he was a very, very generous person. Some of them were a little more closed. Stephen was very closed, Stephen Stills.
Stephen Stills?
He was fairly closed.
Okay.
I mean, he was in his own little world and real tunnel vision when you worked with him.
Yeah.
He didn't see any of the things going around the outside of what he was thinking about.
Right, okay.
And a lot of that's that way, that type of tunnel vision, that type of
There's like focused on
absolute focus.
Yeah.
I'm always convinced that for an artist to be real successful in this business, they better have a huge ego.
Yeah?
Absolutely.
Like
If they aren't thrilled with themselves, they will not thrill others.
is that because there's a lot of like rejection and like
Tons of rejection,
and just
tons of
negativity,
second guessing what they're
second-guessing?
thinking. They have to be just positive in what they think, and
okay.
feel good about. I'm a great person. I am a great musician. I write wonderful
and
music.
just have like almost like a sense of confidence that's almost
Absolutely.
it's almost like annoying about them.
Oh gosh, yes.
Yeah, like it has to be like that high. Like,
but it has to be there, and you have to feed it. You can't tell them to go shut the hell up or anything.
'cause
you got to feed that, and it's a wonderful thing to keep going.
And I guess people deal with that differently on both
Yeah,
sides.
some people get real irked by that, and they don't
Yeah.
want to work with that because, well, that guy's just an asshole because he's
Right.
just so thrilled with himself. And it's like, no, he's got to be. He's got to be. If he's going to have any longevity, if he's going to continue being prolific.
Is there anyone that was like an asshole, but like you totally understood, like specifically, like maybe they just come off rude, but really you just understood that they're.
Oh, I hate mentioning names.
Yeah, I don't
One of
wanna-
the first projects I ever did was for Don Sebesky, and Don Sebesky was a great guy. It was back in the CTI records had just gone away, and Don Sebesky was putting it together, and this was actually a group out of Orlando, I believe,
Okay.
called Impact of Brass, and they were going to put a bunch of money into them, but they needed a guest artist, and they brought in Joe Beck, who's a great guitar player, total asshole,
Yeah.
just hard to get along with.
Joe Beck, as in like Beck.
Not Jeff Beck.
Jeff Beck. That's
Jeff
what I was
Beck's
thinking. Yeah, Jeff
monster.
Beck. Yeah.
Jeff Beck's a great person too.
Yeah.
But Joe Beck is a very good jazz player. Real specific sound that he gets, real specific style that he gets, and just at that time,
Yeah.
not being very nice.
Because he was, to his defense, in a lot of ways, he was probably just.
He was not happy about doing the project, I don't think. I think he thought he was above the project.
Okay.
Sebesky basically owned him.
So he kind
He
of.
said, you're playing on this record, we need your name on this record.
Sure.
And record ended up getting shelved.
Did that happen a lot? Was there a lot? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I did an album with Andy Johns.
Why? Was it just didn't sound right? Or was it.
I have no idea why they shelved
Politics?
things. Sometimes it's politics.
Yeah.
There was a group called Albatross, which is a bad name to start with, I think.
Albatross.
And it was a Southern rock band, and they're very good. They brought in Andy Johns to produce them, the brother of Glenn Johns. Andy and Glenn did all the Rolling Stone stuff.
Okay.
And they brought in Andy to do the album, and I was assisting Andy and helping him with the record. And first of all, Andy, the great gentleman, passed away a couple of years ago. I've never been in a studio that loud.
Really?
The band was actually afraid to come in the control room because it was so loud.
What, they just always had it jacked up on
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
He just
It's just how they like to
played it
roll.
loud.
Yeah.
And
It's painful.
and so Andy was a trip. And the band just, by the time the thing was done, it sounded like a Rolling Stone album, just because that's what Andy ended up with. And Atlanta, or whoever it was, I think it was Atlantic, said, no, we're done. Too bad.
I mean,
Bye-bye.
pass.
Bye-bye.
Done.
And of course, as soon as that happens, the group separates.
This is Albatross.
Albatross immediately broke up. They took
Yeah.
it personally. There was another group called Network.
Oh, no.
And it was being produced by Barry Gibb. Barry wrote them a bunch of music. And the album was spectacular. It was a great record. But the record company was accepting Network, or they were accepting Toto. Toto, another band called
the band Toto.
Great band.
Yeah.
Great
yeah,
band. So
sure,
it was Network or Toto.
Okay.
They selected Toto.
Okay.
The Network album, which was done, which was great, never got released. Got shelved. The band broke up.
And it's still just sitting on a shelf somewhere?
Yeah.
Probably
at Barry's house.
That's wild. That's so wild. I wonder what else
I think
is
he
out
sold
there.
one of the songs. I think Yvonne Ellerman did one of the songs.
Just as a single?
As a single,
Oh,
yeah.
Just get something out of it. We're going to take a quick break.
Okay.
And really just going to grab a drink. And we're going to plug a little ad spot.
Plug some ads.
Yeah, and then we'll be right back.
Cool.
And now a few words about our sponsor. Castledore Studios is a music production house located in Orlando, Florida, and it's where I choose to record episodes of The Orangelando Show. The studio features a blend of vintage and modern equipment and can accommodate musical artists of any genre, voiceover recordings, and, of course, podcasts. They can help with anything audio related. Castledore Studios offers free tours. Come check out their amazing facility for free. There's nothing to lose. They also offer free open house events like their monthly songwriter night where artists share and critique each other's work. It's free, people. Every session you book with Castledore Studios will be professional, private, and inspiring. If you have a creative idea, take action now and contact Castledore Studios at castledoorstudios.com. Use reference code OrangeLando to receive a 10% discount on your first booking. All right, back to the show. Okay, so we're back. And you just said when I was born in 88, you had already done all this stuff.
Yeah.
So that makes me feel really young, which is great. Let's see how long I can hold on to that.
Good.
But in the 90s, you came to Orlando.
I came to Orlando in 84.
Okay, I thought you were going to say 88. I was going to be like, yeah.
83, 84, somewhere around there I came to Orlando and
Okay.
built an oddball house. Had to get my architecture out of my head.
Oh, so you had some ideas?
So I lived down by Disney and I built a geodesic dome.
A
roundhouse.
Really?
Yeah.
Like this, like the
round.
ceiling in the wall, or the roof in the wall, or
Yeah.
like the same thing?
Yeah.
Like it was like a dome,
Yes.
like a half dome. Like a dome.
Yeah, 34-foot, 5/8 geodesic dome.
Wow.
Which has now
Was
been
this
knocked down.
In like celebration area?
This
like,
was
this is
in
Disney, like right outside of
Lake
Disney?
Buena Vista.
Oh, Lake Buena Vista.
Lake
Okay,
Buena
cool.
Vista, and I actually bought power from Disney and bought my phone from Disney. And
Maybe you know something, because I watched a documentary on Disney. I kind of went on a Disney binge.
yeah,
a
one of the
while ago.
imagination
Yeah, well,
documentaries?
I watched a couple documentaries. I think that was one of them.
Okay.
And I was just looking up stuff just because it's super interesting. And one of the things I heard about Lake Buena Vista is that it was created by Disney, like
Yeah.
that city of Lake Buena Vista,
Yeah.
and a lot of the employees and stuff lived there.
Yeah.
And even like the schools and the public utilities and stuff were all kind of like owned by Disney.
All under the guise of Reedy Creek Development.
Reedy Creek.
Yes.
So that was
That was Disney.
Something that Disney owned.
Yeah.
That's crazy because they had their own town and
They had
you
their own
lived in
town. They
it.
had their
You
own
lived in it.
municipality. They have a place out in the middle of nowhere where
Yeah.
some people live that are other board members.
Wow. So that's crazy. What attracted you to? Because you were getting work from Disney.
No,
that
I
what happened,
just
or
wanted
no?
to come to Orlando.
Okay.
I was done in Miami. I was ready to move out
Yeah.
and had a new wife and a new child and
Okay, sure, doing the family thing.
doing, changes of attitudes.
Yeah, and Orlando seemed like a good spot to.
Yes.
You're gonna get out of music for a little
No,
bit.
I got out for a while and got out of real high-end production
Uh-huh.
and did smaller production things. I mean, I always did something in audio,
Mm-hmm.
but I mean,
And then you started a studio here.
Then I started the first. Then I went to work for a studio,
Okay.
which was Stark Lake, and then after Stark Lake, I started my own studio.
Okay, and this became John Blanche
This was
recording
just this
studio?
was John Blanche Audio Production was the first studio.
Okay, John Blanche Audio.
Which was a much smaller facility, actually probably about the same size as this facility.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, which is, I mean,
Yeah, it's a real comfortable.
like, was it like 1,000 square feet?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, mine was 1,030 square feet.
Yeah, yeah.
And it had a nice little had an MCI console, which I bought from Greg Reich, which used to be Casey and the Sunshine Band's console.
So this is, oh, wow. So this is like a very, like, consoles they're not cheap.
Consoles are not
They're
cheap.
probably like the centerpiece of a studio too, right?
My console, well, the console that is in my newest studio, which was commissioned originally in '78, and that's the SSL. I mean, that board, and SSL will still build you a brand new 4K if you want it, and it's $10,000 a channel. So that board was $400,000.
How many channels? I'm terrible
40.
at math. Had 40 channels. Said $10,000 a channel.
$400,000.
Wow.
Yes.
And how did you get the?
And I bought it.
console?
I actually found it on eBay
Okay.
for a whole bunch of money, and
Yeah.
I waited until the auction ended, and contacted the BBC because that's where I bought it from.
Like
was-
the BBC?
BBC,
The British
yes.
Broadcasting?
British Broadcasting. It was in Oxford. It was at the
It
Pebble.
was
It was at the
in-
Pebble Mill studio in Oxford.
It
London.
was in Europe.
In
It
London.
was in London.
It was,
Yeah.
and it was a great console to buy in the fact that it was 2 blocks away from the SSL Corporation. So it was always maintained by SSL. They were always right there.
yeah.
They could always fix it. And it had all the newest updates for that particular console.
And okay, so you got your hands on this
So
console.
I got this console, and
You got a spot. Did you get a new building?
I got a different building.
Yeah.
I rented a bigger building.
Wasn't shaped like a dome.
No, it wasn't shaped like a dome.
Okay.
Dome would be not a very...
Not a good studio environment.
Not really, because it's the way sound reflects.
Bouncing off of walls.
Yeah, I
and
mean,
stuff like that.
a round thing is great for producing the sound properly, but it wouldn't work that well for isolating the sound properly.
when you're just trying to get that one snare, that one.
Yeah, it's just
guitar.
so I built a more
whatever it is,
traditional
yeah.
studio. It's actually kind of a crosshatch between Criteria's old Studio D and a Sausalito studio that Record Plant had.
Okay.
Burned down. But,
Oh.
but it was a nice small studio, but very comfortable, very casual, easy to work in.
Okay.
And it had this 40 input SSL and 40 inputs of Pro Tools. And
Do your history with architecture and design, did that help you?
oh gosh, yes.
When it came to like choosing the room.
yeah,
and
because I knew certain physics.
you knew the physics of sound, how it traveled through.
Right. I knew how to
air.
design, like there's these little curves on all the walls, and those are called polycylindricals, and they fix low frequencies.
Wow.
And if it's part of a 32-foot polycylindrical, it really fixes real nice low frequencies. And those are scattered everywhere, and the way the floor's floated and everything. So I got
Floors
to
floated.
floated. Yeah, the floor is decoupled from the slab,
Oh, so you get like less of a.
less vibration.
Okay, yeah. There's space between the
Yes.
actual concrete
Right.
under the floor. And,
Yeah, there's a little thing called a U-boat. It's a little rubber pad that sits on top of a 2x6 that has
Keeps it
something on
lifted
top
on
of
there.
it, and
Huh.
it decouples. And plus, the walls float; they're decoupled.
Okay.
And the control room is floats from the rest of the building.
Never thought about that.
And the console floats from the control room. So yeah,
Yeah.
it was a trick.
Wow. Yeah, that's cool. I never thought about that. I mean, I always see like the things in the walls and like the shit, and,
yeah,
like
but
even,
it's nice
but
if everything is decoupled
just
from everything
decoupled, yeah.
else.
What did you start recording when you like? Who were your first clients and stuff when you?
In the new studio,
yeah.
My first client, the new studio, was Little Debbie's, which was Milka's band, or Milka's newest band, and they came in just to play real loud. I wanted somebody really loud in there, and they could do that.
Yeah.
And they were fun. They were real nice people, and it really was a good test for the studio.
Okay.
We did drums for the Black Dahlia Murder Band, and that was a real test for multiple miking because they used so many mics.
Black Dahlia Murder Band.
Yes, it was
Sounds
a speed
hardcore.
metal.
Speed metal. Yeah.
Amazing drummer, the fastest stuff I've ever heard.
So you were just talking about a minute ago where you mic'd up the drums.
Yeah, they
with
use
how many?
28 mics.
28 mics to record a drum set.
28 mics for the drums. No drums on the kick drums because he would tune the kick drums so tight so he would get better beater response because the patterns were so complicated.
Wow.
He was playing stuff that was 180, 190, 220 beats per minute. Jesus. That's the style of that music.
Do they do like the double kick?
Oh, yeah.
Like where it's just...
Yeah. But those were all going to just be samples.
Okay.
And it was a lot. I mean, it was a good test for the studio.
Test it out to see really, because you probably did you ever do all 40 channels on that console?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. You just run into it every now and then.
Yeah.
Somebody wants to use them all.
Why not?
And then, then the biggest problem with large format consoles like those is they break. They do break, and they break whether you're using them or whether they're sitting turned off. They'll somehow break.
Just go.
So, and we have a real good tech here in town.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Neil's is wonderful.
Okay, cool. That's good. He works around different studios?
Yeah, he's basically, I mean, if you have an SSL and you're on the East Coast,
he's the guy.
Yeah.
Right on. Joe Krupsik?
Yes?
He's who introduced you to me. I actually just met both of you today, but I did speak to Joe yesterday on the phone, and he had a lot of interesting things to tell me about you, of course, things that we've been talking about. He had a studio in Orlando too.
Yes.
And the reason I'm bringing him up is because I don't think a lot of people know the music scene that is actually happening in Orlando, and that there's several studios, lots of great talent.
There's some great talent here. I mean, the theme parks draw great talent.
The theme parks do.
Absolutely,
How
because
so?
they use so many musicians, so many players.
Oh, like live performances?
Live performers. So they're a great town for live musicians. The biggest problem with that is they're so overused that, if you need a good woodwind section, you can get them all, but they're going to be tired.
Because they're just playing, they're
playing
regularly every day.
Right,
Yeah.
they're playing so much.
Wow. Yeah.
So a lot of good players get drawn here. This town has gone through a lot of studios. The biggest problem with the studio business is I'll go into a school with a bunch of kids, and I'll say, "What do you do?" "Oh, I own a recording studio," and they go, "Oh, I have one too."
Wow, really?
And because as long as you have a laptop,
I was gonna say, yeah, everyone.
You can make a good. I mean, look, who was it?
Yeah, everyone's
the
got
guy
a
that probably
laptop.
we always used to be mad about was Sting years ago.
Why?
He got Album of the Year. I forget the name of the album. It's a great record. Wonderful performer. Great thing. And he goes up to get his Grammy for Album of the Year. The first thing he says is, "Well, we did all this at my house."
It's like a whole industry is just like shit.
Shit. Right. I mean, now he didn't say he had Hit Factory's van parked in the driveway. Plus, his house is a spectacular studio.
Right. It's not a laptop and
it's not a laptop and
right.
Some little program, but it's just made it much more accessible. I mean, Sam Smith, great record, all recorded in his house.
Yeah.
I forget who it was. Just got the Album of the Year.
Oh, Billie Eilish.
All recorded.
Yeah, that's right. It was all her and her brother just made it. They literally made it all on their computer.
They did it home in the bedroom.
And
so that does take away.
Yeah.
Not the legitimacy of the studio, but the necessity of the studio.
Yeah, especially when all the instruments and everything is just digital, right?
Yeah.
Because then even if you producing vocals that are kind of like auto-tuned or whatever, like it's all a style. It's a style that you can kind of, because I mean there is a live performance style it's hard to get in a house.
Right.
Like if you
you're not gonna, and you generally won't really get a great drum sound in a house because you're just stuck with the house acoustics.
Yeah.
But you can always create a smaller space.
Yeah, you don't have floating floors in your house.
Right. I mean, this room here is a great room.
It's like a
wonderful sounding room. And drums sound great in here. Everything sounds great in here.
Were you around when this room was created? Did you have anything to do? Did Joe?
Joe did, yes.
Joe did? Joe helped build it? Yeah. Because, and that's what I forgot. I was going to bring up Joe because when you were doing your recording studio in Orlando for the first time, did you know Joe then? Were you guys,
I met Joe when I built the second studio, the big one
Okay.
that's there now.
Okay.
And Joe was unfortunately just having to close his studio.
Oh.
And he ended up moving a bunch of equipment into my B room
Okay.
and basically running that. So yeah, Joe was there for a while.
So you guys kind of combined forces a little
Absolutely.
bit. Very cool. And
Because I had a B room, I had a smaller room. Because when I moved, I still had clients from the other studio. So I had to build a room, and it was basically a drum room, a little smaller than this, about half the size of this.
yeah.
And attach it to a room that had a window, so I could kind of keep working while I built the big room.
Oh, so you had to like you had to make things work. Yeah.
Right.
You had to downsize
I was in
momentarily.
the middle of doing an album with a bunch of guys from the old Seven Mary 3 band.
So I don't know.
And, good group.
Okay.
Good group. And so we had to have some place because they were still doing drums and stuff.
Right.
So I just made something real fast.
Made it work.
Made it work. And then built the other room. And the other room took about 2 years to build.
Okay. So it was down for 2 years.
I still had the little
The
room.
little room, but yeah. So
but
but
the
you were
big room-
operating in that little room exclusively
Yeah,
for
just
yeah.
because a friend and I built the big room. I mean, I didn't bring in contractors or anything. We
Oh
just-
yeah. So sure.
We just built this room.
Maybe you didn't have the money, but you had the time.
Had the time.
Yeah.
Had the time. And it was just built this studio.
Right on. Well, man, what I mean, you're still recording. You told me today you were mixing this morning
Right.
for a gospel.
Right.
And like you're not stopping.
No.
I mean,
Oh,
like,
no.
you're talking about like all these things that happened so long ago, but
No.
like you're very active. And what are you looking to do in the future? Like what how do you pick clients? How do you find clients? Like, do you have anything? Just roll with the punches.
People that find me.
Yeah.
And I listen to their stuff, and if I like it.
If you like it, you.
The gospel stuff I've been doing a long time. When
Uh-huh.
I was out of the business and just doing some mostly spoken word type recordings, the guy that I worked with today actually approached me and said, "Hey, we need some gospel stuff recorded. Can you help us?" And I actually said, "Oh, yeah." And I went out and bought a console and bought a little tape machine and bought everything I needed
Yeah.
so I could go remotely record them. And it's because of him I've actually got back into the music biz again.
Wow.
Yeah.
Kind of just dragged you in that way.
Yeah, that was all right.
Keep gravitating to it.
Keep gravitating.
Yeah. I did a little bit of sound work actually.
Okay.
I did I lived in Los Angeles for a few years and I recorded production sound on set.
Okay.
I was in film school and I dropped out because I started working,
Yeah.
because one thing I realized quickly is everyone goes out there, they want to be either in front of the camera, right, an actor, or
Right.
they want to be operating the camera,
Right.
or director, something like that. But no one like went into film to be a sound engineer.
No. Oh, no.
And so there was a high demand for sound engineers. So a lot of people operating camera, a lot of actors work for free.
Yeah.
But they always paid sound people.
Yeah.
And so, Zach, who we know owns the studio, he taught me a lot of stuff, and I met a lot of the great people I met out there. This is a different industry, but they did sound and audio for film, and I just always thought it was the coolest.
Yeah. I love doing sound for other media.
Yeah.
I used to love doing TV stuff.
Did you do a lot of TV stuff
Yeah.
in Orlando or?
In Miami, well, we always did some TV stuff. We always did the Orange Bowl parade each year.
Oh yeah,
We would bring in
like a live broadcast.
no, we would bring in, the Orange Bowl parade is assorted bands, marching bands, and those are marching bands. They're live, but then there are always acts that come through and they'll lip sync a song.
Oh okay.
So they'll come to the studio first and perform the song, and then like at the
So you have to record the lip sync track.
like at the last Super Bowl. I don't know if you watched
yeah,
it.
the Shakira, Jennifer.
Yeah, the last
Lopez.
one, and before the show started, there was a whole bunch of kids that sang a patriotic thing,
Yeah.
and I forget who they sang it with.
Was it a celebrity or like it was a celebrity?
Yeah, it was a celebrity, I think.
I don't remember.
And I got a text from Criteria right like 2 days before the Super Bowl, and they showed pictures of all the kids in the studio singing the song.
yeah.
So it could be used for the broadcast.
Wow. So you were doing stuff like that for TV?
A lot of
Or you
stuff like that, yeah.
You record for.
We would record, ensemble projects that would be played for TV.
Yeah.
But they obviously aren't going to chance it being done.
Yeah, they're like, no, this is gonna be perfect.
This is going to be perfect.
Yeah.
So just pretend you're singing. Oh, sing along if you want to. Sure, that's fine.
You think pretty much any event like that, it's all like. Do you think like Shakira and J-Lo were lip syncing?
Yeah.
Right, for sure.
I think so. And again, maybe they're just that good, but I always will listen to the difference between the vocal and the dialogue when they're talking to the crowd.
Oh, you can
tell the difference.
Like the
then.
quality of the recording versus
these people are
the live
pros,
sound.
and pros should be able to lip sync so you never know they're doing it.
Yeah, especially them because they're. I mean, well, Jennifer Lopez, she has a reoccurring show in Vegas like every day or whatever.
Yeah.
But again, they don't want the producers don't want to take that kind of chance,
They
right?
don't want to, and some of it may have been live. I think there were some things that were live. Yeah, mixed. But you can always, if the dialogue yelling at the crowd is different than the vocal sound, okay.
I'm gonna keep an ear out for that next time.
Yeah.
Be like, see if I can catch it.
Yeah. But I thought the performances were great.
It was really high energy, right?
Yeah, it was good.
I was surprised at the blowback a lot of people had. I don't want to say blowback. I think the internet's just loud sometimes. But it was like multicultural and it was good. It was fun. Yeah.
It was a football game. It's great.
Exactly. It was just a football game. Yeah. And you got J-Lo and Shakira dancing and singing to you.
What could you want?
What more can
they both look great.
They do, right? And she's like...
She's
50?
50 or something. She looked wonderful.
Yeah, no, I mean, my heart stopped.
Yeah.
Right on, man. Well, I really appreciate you coming by today for a little interview.
Cool.
I would love to have you on again in the future, maybe.
Sure, I'd love to.
But at any rate, it was just great meeting you, and I'm really happy to just be discovering more about Orlando music.
It's a happy town.
And I learned quite a few new things today, so
Good.
I appreciate that.
I was thrilled coming here.
And if anyone does want to get a hold of John Blanche for engineering, mixing, where do they go?
They could. Where would they go? Facebook. They'll find me on Facebook. They could find me through Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just have them reach out to me on Facebook.
Reach out to you, shoot you a message, and
I'll get to them.
It's amazing how super just friendly and humble and easy to talk you are, because you are a professional, and I think anyone would be lucky to have you as their engineer. And also, if anyone ever wants to contact you, I'm sure they can contact Castledor Studios right here, because
absolutely,
it's all the same group of friends, right? That's what it is, a big happy family.
That's what it is.
Right on. Well, John.
Cool.
Thank you.
Enjoyed it. Thank you.